Hi, welcome to podcast number 14, where we're looking again at a theme. This is the emotional bond that drives audiences through films and mobiles and every other form of narrative. So actually, at the point where emotionally they garner something from the end result. And today I want to talk about the whole question of order and the need for order in life, and therefore the expression of order in narrative. Most of the time, people find life very disjointed, pretty unorganized, and they do a great deal to try and actually place some sort of order in it, be this from organizing diaries to a list for everything, or merely trying to go, well, it doesn't really matter, I'll live with the chaos, pretending somewhere along the line some order will emerge from it. Well, this desire for order in the face of the chaos of life was inevitably going to end up producing an emotional response that could be used within narratives, and so it has become. The desire for order is most easily seen in those films where war is most evident. War is the most outward expression of order in narrative terms, the total chaos, the threat of death, the uncertainty of the moment, and will or will not people survive. But crucially, will they create some order out of this chaos? Will they actually make sense of it? And in fact, does war have any sense? There's been the sorts of questions in very, very early days of filmmaking, right the way through to the modern things such as Halo on games and so on. Here, in all of these narratives, one is looking to make sense of the chaos of life and the emotion that goes with it. The desire for order can easily be set up in almost any narrative. So how do you focus on it as a theme? Well, crucially, you need to choose a setting which in and of itself is an expression of chaos or order. So, for instance, if one sets up a magical world where suddenly a demon appears or some disruptive force appears that could knock it out, then you're on into a situation of chaos and order. However, if you've entered the land of the supernatural, you're more likely to be dealing with the fear of the unknown than you are with some notion of order. No, order is expressed in the everyday because it comes from the everyday. This is not about supernatural beings or things disrupting the universe in that way. It is much more about how do we cope with our everyday lives. The narratives that deal with the desire for order, this threat of chaos that seeks to consume us, tend to be set very much in our everyday lives, in particular in families, in work environments, and in the nature of the cities and villages in which we live. So in this sense, one quite often finds within these narratives a person who becomes symbolic by the desire for order or the presence of chaos. Now, of course, many, many comedies rest on the concept of chaos. One only has to think back to the silent comedy era and the number of narratives which rested totally upon the idea that the protagonists were actually struggling to withstand, overcome, or survive total chaos. May this be Buster Keaton in the middle of a hurricane, or Charlie Chaplin actually in the middle of a pastry fight. These sorts of ideas, they may seem simple. Comedy at this level may appear simple, but it touches a very, very deep emotion. The fear that everything will descend into chaos and that emotionally we won't be able to cope, and therefore the desire for some order is incredibly strong. Now, this can, of course, be taken into the utopian realm, or rather the dystopian realm, where one is actually setting up a world where everything is so ordered that in fact the whole role of the protagonist or the nature of the narrative is to bring about some form of chaos because the order has become too oppressive. As you can see, this desire for order and chaos lends itself very well to different types of narrative and different types of concern. So if you want to write a family story, it may be that you're not actually writing as you first thought about validation, the desire to be recognized, but the fact that a teenage protagonist is about to destroy the whole family. Now, what you're actually watching is the survival of the family unit or not. And that may well be the focus of your film. Now, what sort of examples do we have above and beyond the obvious wartime ones? Well, you do actually look for things about the state of mind that people are in. So, for instance, things like Beautiful Mind, where you're actually dealing with schizophrenia, is a very recent example of modern cinema embracing the desire for order. But this one also embraced the notion of validation, which I also want to come on to. And so you have to be careful where the boundary is being drawn when you look at this theme. All the time there is this tendency to see within drama the fact that dramatic events produce chaos out of which some new order can be written. In fact, many people talk of drama as though it is merely a question of reinstating order. But we're not talking about that type of dramatic usage here. We are talking about the emotion, the thing that underlines it all. And this appears in a certain numbers of narratives. They can range, as I said, from war movies and the great classics like All Quiet on the Western Front, through to modern day chaos like Apocalypse Now. Or you may find them in more personal dramas like Lost Weekend, dealing with alcoholism, or Trainspotting and the notion of drug abuse and its ability to destroy all. As you can see, there's a range of wide options here, all of which give you a notion of the desire for some sort of order out of the chaos of life, or in the face of an oppressive order, some desire for chaos.